there of the level of Ben Yoyer, Ben Shimi, Ben Kish. The Chazal say all different types of things that indicate how they have the level of tefillah. And we asked that seemingly this whole level of tefillah is not something that Mordechai is his main thing. It says Ben Yoyer that he illuminated the eyes of the Yidden and davening, and Ben Shimi that Hashem listened to his tefillah, and Ben Kish that he knocked on the doors of heaven and mercy, etc., etc. Mordechai was about the Rosh Sanhedrin. Mordechai was about Torah. Why do we talk about tefillah? So to explain all of this, we're holding on Ois Gimel, third page of the Minor. So as Ois Gimel, Lahavin calls that to be able to understand all of this. Tzarech lahagdim inyan habracha v'haidah. We have to preface the idea of bracha versus haidah. Each one of them has an advantage that's not to be found in the other. The inyan habracha hu gili oir. The idea of bracha is a revelation of light. As it's known, that bracha is from the expression drawing down. For example, it says that one that bends over the vine to plant it, to replant it in the ground, whatever. What does the bracha mean? The drawing down from a place that's higher than him. And from that high place, it's drawn down below. It comes down in a revealed way. That's what means you get a bracha. You get a bracha that it affects you. It's also internalized in his comprehension. That's the idea of bracha. That's an amshacha. It's a revelation that has to do with the person in such a way that it becomes joined with him. That is bracha. As opposed to that, haidah is something different. Mash'enkin binyan haidah, as opposed to the idea of haidah, what does it mean, haidah? I admit, I accept. That's talking about specifically something that I don't comprehend, or else the idea of admitting and accepting doesn't apply. I'm doing it because I understand, not because I'm admitting. That's why you need to admit and to accept something that is beyond you. But on the other hand, even though haidah is not something that's revealed and comes in a pnimius and becomes misachid with a seichel, there's an advantage because of the bittul. He admits and nullifies himself to something that's higher than him. So he says in the second paragraph, in Ois Gimel, line 15, these two matters of bracha versus haidah, these are in general the two names of Havaya and Elikim. As we can explain, that haidah has to do with Havaya because that's very high, and Elikim, which comes down into our levels, that's a level of bracha. The difference between the name Havaya and the name Elikim is Havaya is a combination of the three words Haya it was, Hayv it is, and Yeh will be, but they're all combined, so it means it's all simultaneous, indicating how can past, present, and future be combined. It indicates that Hashem is beyond the idea of time. Therefore, he can effect a joining and a unity in the past, in the present, and what will be in the future, as opposed to as opposed to the name Elikim, which is written and said in the plural. It comes in a multiplicity, and it divides itself according to the worlds, and every world accordingly. That's why it's in the plural. This difference between Havaya and Elokim is the difference between the light that encompasses all the worlds and the light that permeates the worlds. The Soviv Kalam, that the Soviv Kalam level, until the most highest level that we could describe by the name Soviv Kalam, Hulamailam and Oilmas, is beyond the worlds. Sheina Oilmas, Mastirim Alav, that the worlds do not conceal it because it's not enclosed in the worlds. And because it's not enclosed in the world, so the worlds don't act like a garment or a vessel that will cover over the light. Mash Enkin Memal Kalam, as opposed to Memal Kalam, it's a light that's drawn down into every single world according to its level. So therefore, you have the Hischalkos, you have the Riboy, you have Shem Elokim, and so on, that it's internalized and permeating. Now, in the names, Ubashemis, who in Shem Elokim, the level of Memal Kalam, top of page Ches, is the name Elokim. Shuhu B'Loshen Rabim, that it's also in plural, like we mentioned before, Mitzad Ischalkus HaOilmis, because of the visions of the world. Ubabi Slapshis Boilmis, and it comes in a way that's enclosed in the worlds. What's the idea of enclothing? Indicating, so we said before that Havaya, since it's not enclosed in the world, so it's not something that is covered over by the world. But Elokim, that's enclosed in the world. The Oila Melosh Nehelam, that the word for world is from the word concealment. So that means that the godly light over here is concealed. And also another indication that Elokim has to do with concealment. Elokim b'gematria teva. The numerical value of the name Elokim, spelled out Aleph Lamed Hey Yud Mem, is the same numerical equivalent of HaTeva, the nature. And Teva, we know, is Meloshin Tovu Ba'aretz Shareha. Teva is in the word drowning or sinking in, like it says that the gates of the Beis Hamikdash sunk into the ground, which means that it's something that's sunken in, something that's drowned, means it's covered over. The same thing, the level of Elokim is something that's godliness is covered over. On the level of Memal Kalam Makshurim, Shem Elokim is connected with the name Elokim. Namar, it says, raise up upon high your eyes, and see who created these. Meaning, despite the fact that externally Elokus is concealed, but that doesn't mean that we cannot uncover it and reveal it in our mind to bring it down, be sachtas with us, to something we appreciate. Shezoya is bonanus. This is the meditation. First of all, he thinks into the fact that nothing makes itself. So therefore, there must be an Elokim, there must be a godly power that's enclosed in the world that creates the world. Another thing that he meditates in, also meditating and contemplating divine providence. Like in other places, it's explained the details of the particular concepts that he has to meditate on to be able to appreciate Hashem's creating the world, that nothing comes by itself, and how Hashem runs the world, everything is by Hashgacha Pratis, divine providence. So he says in line 10, through this contemplation, so then he has these achdus, like the bracha, that something comes down and becomes revealed in him. Nasa, it's like one of us sagas. So then by the person that becomes the understanding and the comprehension, the level of Bina. And from the level of Bina, like we spoke about in the previous Maimer, you work your way up. Until he comes to the level where he sees it in his mind's eye, the level of vision of Chachma. That's why it says, see who created this, in such a way that because he understands it and because he sees it in his mind's eye, he doesn't even need the idea of faith and belief in it because he understands it intellectually. This is also what it says, Shema Yisrael Havaya Lekeinu Havaya Echad. Shema Yisrael, we know Shema is not just hearing, but it means think into the fact that Havaya Lekeinu Havaya Echad. By thinking into the fact that Havaya is our God, comes into Shem Elokim, Shebachlolos hareza is bonus bebirchas kriyashma. Ubefrat bekriyashma. In general, this is the meditation that's in the brachas of kriyashma. And specifically during kriyashma, that meditation, from that Baal Havaya Echad, he comes to Havaya Echad, meaning that the part of godliness that comes down to him is in a way that it permeates. Echad indicates that it comes down into all the details into his world. Shemamshich Alufei Shel Olam, he draws down the master of the world, B'Haches V'Adalid, in the letter Ches and the Dalet of the word Echad, that the number Ches, the number 8, hints at the 7 heavens and the earth, and the number 4, hinted in the Dalet, hints at the 4 sides of the compass. Havaya and Elokeinu and Havaya Echad, that's referring to the level of godliness as Shem Elokim, even though he's using Havaya, but it's Havaya the way it's Elokeinu, it's Havaya the way it's Echad. Over there, it's applicable to say that's something that you can comprehend, it's something that you reveal, and you draw down into the world. Amnom Shem Havaya L'maylam and Oilmas, as opposed to Shem Elokim, Shem Havaya itself is beyond the worlds. Like we spoke about before, it's a level of Soiv Kalam. This is also the reason why Havaya is likened to the sun. Like it says in the pasuk, Havaya Lakim, that Shem Havaya and Shem Lakim is like the sun and its shield and its sheath. Just like it's impossible to derive benefit from the sun, only through its covering, only through its shield, only through its sheath. Perhaps that means the ozone layer. So too, to name Yud Vavke, it's like the sun. And without the shield and the case and the sheath of the name Elokim, the entire existence of the world would not be able to exist. Top of page test. There wouldn't be able to be avoided the way it's now, even if somehow the world would be able to stand, but because Havaya would be revealed. So since Havaya would be revealed, so there wouldn't be free choice. There wouldn't be the level of avoided the way we have it now. So we need to have Havaya encased in the Shem Elokim. That's why Havaya is this combination of past, present, and future. Seemingly, this indicates that it has a connection with the idea of time. That's why it says still in all we say, Shulam Mailam Nazman, that he's beyond time. That in one moment, in the very same moment, by us, there has to be a moment of past, a moment of present, a moment of future. By Hashem, it's all combined in the same moment, like it's explained in Sharich V'Emunah. So too, it's in the level that's beyond place, that it's also just like Hashem is beyond time, in the similar vein, he's beyond place. Just like it says, the space of the Aron did not take up any place. Even though its length was 2.5, amas, and it was 1.5 amas the width. So how do you have both? Just like we said, you have both space and out of space. How does it happen? The combination of both. But the reason for this is it's a level that's beyond place, the way it comes down in place. Move on for this understood. Because of the Shem Yud Kei Vavke, it's beyond the worlds. Like Shayach Inyan Havana Vasag, the idea of understanding and comprehension doesn't apply. Ki im Inyan Haida, rather the idea of admitting and accepting the level that he becomes nullified. The ilu in a bracha as opposed to a bracha, we said bracha is about drawing down the light, the level that's beneath it, and not just you drawing it down, but it becomes joined with it, until it becomes joined with the entire existence of the receiver. How can that be? It's only because of the name Malakim, it's possible to have that type of drawing down and revelation and joining with the receiver. So once we understand this difference between Bracha and Eidah, he's going to compare it to the difference between Torah and Tefillah, which is going to lead back to Mordechai. What was his thing? Torah versus davening. Ois Daled, line 16. Similar to the difference between Bracha and Eidah. It's also the difference between Torah and davening. The Torah, Torah is the idea of understanding and comprehension. Still in a way of unity. Like explained in Tanya, that when a person knows Torah, so then the person that is thinking the idea of Torah or knows the idea of Torah becomes completely joined with the idea in a way that there's no other comparison to it whatsoever. In a similar vein, concerning the general idea of understanding and comprehension. Through meditating in those topics that a person needs to meditate, the needs to meditate in it, we say to be able to truly evoke from the intellect, we have to bring out emotions. It has to be only if we have Yiska Daita Machshavte B'chayzik, he really sets his mind into it in a very strong way. So again, we see this joining of the thinker and the idea. Since he becomes joined with the matter, it becomes the most powerful existence. The person becomes a powerful existence because he has now Torah becomes part of him. It becomes an entirely new being because of the Torah that he's studying. To a certain degree, to certain halachas, that the person that has Torah in his mind, you need to honor him. He becomes a totally different person than before. So it's not about bittul, it's about actually strengthening his metzias. As opposed to davening, it has to be like a servant before his master. This idea of nullification, sublimation. Does that mean that Torah can be part of my ego and so on? It says no. Though also Torah study has to be in the state of nullification. Also, like it says, that my tongue is only repeating, like Chassidus always says, like someone that's only responding to the reader. When somebody responds to a reader and repeats after the reader, after the chazan, there's no ego involved because he's not saying anything, he's just repeating the words. The same thing when a person learns Torah, he has to see himself that he's only saying over Hashem's words. So why are you saying davening is about bittul and Torah is about strengthening my metzias? So he says, in addition to the fact, top of page Yud, that to be able to reach such a level in Torah learning, it's a very high level of Torah. But the Rebbe says this bittul is not a stira to being a metzias. Bittul zagufa poil shiyebetoik metzias. This very bittul effect that the person should have a very powerful being. So he says like this. How's that different than the bittul of davening? This means as follows. Shabittul b'tfilah, when a person has bittul during davening, ka'avda kamem mori, like a servant standing before his master, it's in such a way that he totally loses Metzias. The whole idea of Ka'avda Kamimori, we have different halachas in davening. A person is not allowed to signal someone in the middle of davening, etc. He has to stand with the complete bittul during Shemoneh Esrei, like he's standing before his king. Masha Enkin bittul the limud Torah, as opposed to the bittul of limud Torah. True, I need to study Torah in the state of bittul, but then because my entire being becomes suffused with Torah, so then through that he becomes with the full power of the existence of a king, like we mentioned before in Ois Beis, that it's like the head is the king over the entire body, that we say man malke rabbanon, that the rabbanon, the chachamim, are considered like a melech, because the Torah gives them the power and the strength and the full force of the Eibishter's word and the Eibishter's decisions. To such a degree does it add to the person's strength. He bonds with the giver of the Torah. The giver of the Torah, Hashem, is the true existence. So then, by bonding with the true existence, which is Hashem, because the Torah and his mind become entirely one, which is like Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, the Torah is Hashem's will and wisdom, which is one with him, with Hashem. And that becomes one with the person that learns it. So he becomes completely united and one with with Hashem. So, and since Hashem is the only true existence, so now the person that becomes completely united with Hashem, he also becomes the strongest existence possible. Close in line 9, the general idea behind this is Torah's idea is about drawing down from above to below. The matters the existence of the one below, in which the Hamshacha comes down. When you're bringing down the Hamshacha to someone else, just like when you're teaching to someone else, when you're teaching someone, the person who is the student matters to the teacher. And the teacher tailors his words and his thoughts and his focus to the student's needs and capabilities and so on. That is what Torah is. Torah is like tailored to us, so we should be able to receive it. That's the idea that Torah was given specifically down here below on the earth. The study of Torah has to be with my full existence, my full being. In other words, I can't just say, B'Kabbalah soil, I have bittul to Hashem. If it says this way in Torah, it must be true. No, I have to come to it with my full understanding, with my full existence. Yes, it's true, but I need to understand it as much as humanly possible. Like the Rambam says, even things that are Gzeres HaKosov, we need to see ways how we could understand as much as possible and learn lessons from it as much as possible and so on. So we see this concept that even when it comes to matters even when it comes to Torah, or specifically the matters of Torah, that's a matter of the person's full existence. Davening, on the other hand, is just the opposite. Tefillah is about ascending and elevating from below to above. The Raza, the Korban Ha'olah, the Raza Dein Sof, the secret of the Karbanis goes up all the way to the mystery and the secret of the Ein Sof. What does this mean? As far as the person's bittul, he ascends from his level and becomes nullified. He becomes a totally lack of existence. Though in davening there's also the idea of filling one's requests. So if Hashem is filling our requests, so that means that I matter. Just like we're saying, Torah is about me. That idea of filling our requests is drawing down from above to below. That's the result after davening. The filling the request is not during davening. He doesn't go to work during davening. He doesn't go to the doctor during davening, etc. The tefillah itself is in a way of elevation from below to above.